We are glad to see you again on our channel, and today we have a film review where Max, the warrior and the wanderer, joins the fugitive team under the command of Furiosa. Together, they drive a truck through the desert, avoiding obstacles and pursuers for their purpose. The film begins with the words, "My name is Max, my world is fire and blood." The hero Max Rockatansky tells that he was once a cop, a road warrior, and was ready to fight for justice. He says the world was crumbling, and it was hard to know who was crazier, him or everyone else. Max Rockatansky stands in the middle of the desert, next to the car. He steps on the lizard and eats it. He gets in the car and quickly drives away. He is chased by other cars and bikes. Max's car is shot at, and it turns over. Max behind the scenes says he lives in this god-forsaken desert with only one instinct that drives him to survive. He was captured by the Citadel raiders, a prosperous settlement on underground water sources and ruled by the dictator Immortan Joe. Max is handcuffed, his hair is shaved, and on his back is tattooed with the inscription, "First Group, Universal Donor." Max breaks out of his shackles and runs away, but he is followed. He almost manages to get out, but faces from the past distract him. The girl looks directly at him and asks, "Max, where are you?" Max runs out the door and realizes that the next is a cliff. He jumps and clings to the crane nearby, but he is grabbed and dragged back into captivity. Max Rockatansky, the girl, Warlord Furiosa, the field commander of Immortan Joe, gets into the car in the driver's seat. At this time, everyone cheers and calls Immortan Joe. He goes to the people. He gives a speech in which he says he is the savior and all rise from the ashes of this world. Furiosa. All people are frozen in anticipation. Immortan Joe gives the team, and the people start to pour water on. People rejoice, but Joe soon turns off the water and says they don't have to get used to it. A column of cars leaves for the city. Immortan Joe. Max is in a cell. One of the dictator's men orders to get him out. Furiosa is driving a milk lorry on the road, accompanied by a gourd. She sharply turns left and continues on the sand. One of her escorts asks her where they are now going. Furiosa responds to him, "The Corsa is to the east." Immortan Joe has many women sitting in the room, with their breasts pumping milk. A man of small stature in a chair calls the dictator to himself and shows in binoculars that Furiosa did not go to the city and turned into enemy territory. Joe goes and opens the room behind the iron door. He goes inside and sees the inscriptions. "Our children will not become warmongers who have destroyed the world. We are not things." A woman with gray hair aims at him from a gun and says, "He can't own people like things." Joe is angry and asks where she is taking them. The woman replies that they beg to take them. Joe angrily asks where she is taking them, apparently having in mind Furiosa, and the woman says away from him. Drumroll begins, and one person, bald, sitting near a cell with Max, asks another, running by, what is happening. He is told that Furiosa stole the mare Immortan Joe, the dictator's women. They are ordered to find, but do not touch. The fighter, who is taking Max's blood, says that he will not stay here and will also go, offers to take Max as a donor with him. The army of Immortan Joe leaves. Max is chained to the car. He resents that first his blood was taken, and now his car. The fighter to whom Max gives blood is called Nax. He screams, "Immortan Joe," and he turns in his direction. Nax rejoices that the dictator has looked at him and adds speed to the car.
He turned his head, he let me straight in the eye!
Nax. Furiosa follows in Greenlands. This is a fertile land where the girl was born and from where she and her mother were taken. Other Ogre and Chief Gunsmith soldiers join the Immortan Joe squad soon. There is a slaughter on the way, the cars are turned over, and shelling is underway. All the cars are approaching the sandstorm. The fighters are shouting, "Follow her!" Furiosa covers her face with a bandage, puts on glasses, adds speed, and drives into the storm. Nax tells the second fighter that they need a counterweight and commands to roll Max back. Max takes advantage of the moment and begins to fight back. Their car drives into the storm. Nax adds speed and comes to the Furiosa truck. He opens some tank and the car interior begins to fill up the liquid. He takes the torch in his hand and screams, "I died and rose!" Mac's machine crashes. Max gets up out of the sand. He goes to the car and tries to undo his chain, which is tied to the fighter. One part of the chain is on the fighter's hand, and the other part is a mask on Max's face. He takes a fighter on his back and goes to Furiosa's truck. There the girls are washing. Max points a gun at them. They say, "We will not return." He commands to give him water, and one of the girls, pregnant, brings him a hose. Max drinks. Then he points to his chain and calls one of the girls to him. The girl approaches and starts trying to bite the chain with the tool. At this point, Furiosa lashes out at Max and knocks him off his feet. From all the actions a fighter chained to Max comes to himself and also begins to participate in the fight. Finally, Max manages to lay Furiosa. Max is already thinking aloud about how the dictator will thank them for the girls. Max pulls his jacket off him, then climbs into the truck. He leaves, leaving the girls and Furiosa. Furiosa asks if the girls want to save themselves and says to do whatever she says. They run after the truck. Soon Max stops, and Furiosa tells him that she has installed a jammer. Without her, this truck will not go. Furiosa says she'll only go with girls. Then she asks Max if he wants to remove the iron mask from his face. Furiosa and the girls get into the truck. The truck is gaining speed. Behind it, Max manages to jump. In the window, the girls and Max see that the ogre army is approaching them and he himself. Furiosa says something is stopping the truck, and Max climbs to the tank. He's been trying to get the mask off his face all the time, and he's finally getting it off. While Max is busy with the tanker, Max climbs into the cockpit and attacks Furiosa. She puts a knife to his throat, but the girls say he's just a stupid boy on the verge of disintegration. They start arguing with Max, telling him they are just cannon fodder for the old man. Max argues, claiming that he will rise again and there is no guilt on the fighters. What the girls are interested in is who ruined the world. They push Max out of the car. The truck is entering the canyon. Furiosa says she has a non-aggression agreement with the locals, but no one else should be seen in the car. The girls hide in the hatch. Max also climbs in, holding them at gunpoint. Furiosa stops the car in the canyon, comes out with her hands up, and says she brought everything they ordered. Bikers appear. One of them tells Furiosa that she has brought back as many as 3 squads of pursuit. At this time, a pregnant girl feels birth pains in the hatch. Furiosa screams, "Go!" and Max starts to drive the truck. Furiosa runs under it and climbs into the hatch from below. Bikers are blocking the passage, blocking the canyon's access to the pursuit squads. Immortan Joe says he will pass the blockage, and the rest of them will clear it and catch up. He takes Max with him, who shows a piece of a dress of one of the girls and says he was with them. At this time, bikers are chasing a truck in which Max and the girls. They throw charges at it. The car partially catches fire. Furiosa and Max shoot back. Immortan Joe's car is riding right on their tail. He's already aiming for the truck, but the pregnant girl opens the door and shows herself to the dictator. Joe says there's his kid, his property. Max offers to jump into the truck. Joe gives the order to put a bullet in Furiosa, release the girls, and promises to personally take the fighter to the gate. Max hops on the truck. Immortan Joe overtakes the truck, and his men aim their weapons at it. They hook up the steering wheel of the truck and try to drag it in. The girls cut the chain. Furiosa puts instead of the steering wheel a large iron key and tries to turn the machine. At this point, one of the girls, pregnant Angharad, who was standing outside the door of the car, falls under the wheels. The girls tell Max to turn around, but he says she's dead. The girls panic. Immortan Joe, with Angharad in his arms, shouts, "Follow them." One of the girls tries to run back to the dictator. She screams that he will forgive them, but the other girls restrain her. Max asks where these green lands, and Furiosa tells him to drive all night. She goes down to patch up the truck, and one of the girls goes to watch if someone will chase them. She sees Knox lying depressed and says he saw everything. He bangs his head against the car, saying he let the dictator's wife die. The girl calms him. He says that the gate has been opened to him 3 times already. He also says that he thought he was born for an achievement. The girl strokes his face. The girls in the cockpit at this time say, "Max, how many pistol cartridges are left?" It is night. The truck is stuck in a mire of gloom. Pursuers do not fall behind. Stopping on the swamps, Immortan Joe says to get the child out of the belly of the dying Angharad. The doctor takes the child out and says that he would be alive for another month. It's a boy. Chief Gunsmith rushes to the truck. Nax gets behind the wheel and says that he can drive. Then he says that they need to wrap the rope from the truck on the tree that is in front of them. Max helps him. They tie the rope to the tree and start pulling the truck. Finally, the wheels of the truck are pulled out of the mire. Chief Gunsmith is close and shooting at them. The truck stops, the engines are cooled, and it's needed to fill them with water. Girls cool the engines, and Max goes towards the pursuers. After a while, he returns in blood, with the wheel in hand. They drive on. Max wakes up. Furiosa tells him that everything is quiet and that he can rest. Max asks her why she thought the Greenlands exist. Furiosa replies that she was born there and was stolen as a child. Max asks if she tried to escape, and the girl replies that many times, but never in a combat truck, and that this is her last chance. Max asks about the girls. Furiosa pronounces they need hope and she needs redemption. They stop and Furiosa looks into binoculars. She says she remembers something like that. As they drive closer, they see a woman asking for help. Furiosa comes out and introduces. A woman makes a call and pulls up a few motorcycles. She runs up to Furiosa and asks how long it's been. Furiosa replies that 7,000 days, excluding those she does not remember. Another woman asks what became of Furiosa's mother, and she replies, she lost her life on the 3rd day. They make a gesture in memory. Furiosa introduces them to the girls she brought. She says she came from the West, and the men who are with them can be trusted. Furiosa says she wants to show the girls the Greenlands. What the women tell her is that they passed them, the place where the soil was poisoned, and the Crowpack. They say that they had to leave there in search of water, and of the 1,000 mothers, only they remained. Furiosa, with a pain in her eyes, goes away from everyone, takes off the pad on her hand, and you can see that on her left hand, she has no brush. She falls to her knees on the sand and screams out of despair. At night, Furiosa decides to consider a plan of action. She wants to continue through the salt flats. One of the girls has a dialogue with one of the 1,000 mothers, and she shows her suitcase containing the seeds. The woman shares that one day they hope to find suitable soil and plant again. Furiosa tells Max that they have only one chance to cross the salt flats, and that for him, there is a separate bike with a full tank of fuel. Max refuses, saying he is on his own. In the morning, everyone rides out on their bikes. Max again covers visions. He catches up with girls, women, and shows them the way back to the Citadel. He proposes to take the Citadel, as there is everything for life, and, most importantly, water. Max suggests that the truck take the same road back through the canyon. Max argues that even after 160 days, the paths of the desert will not end. This way, they all have a chance to redeem themselves. Everyone agrees. Immortan Joe and his entire army notice that the heroes are returning. The dictator understands that they are going to the Citadel because there is no security there. The army catches up with Max and the others. Gunfire and brutal slaughter begins. Furiosa is badly hurt, but even so, she jumps into Joe's car and takes his life. Nax sacrifices himself and crashes a truck in the canyon when everyone climbs off it, thereby helping Max and the others escape the pursuit. On the way, Max helps Furiosa survive. Upon arrival at the Citadel, Max shows the inhabitants the body of Immortan Joe, and Furiosa takes the place of the ruler. She opens the water for everyone. Max looks at her from below and leaves, lost in the crowd. This is the Australian film Mad Max Fury Road in the genres of action, fiction, adventure. The director and screenwriter is George Miller.